And welcome to LFC Focus. It is post-match reaction showtime after Liverpool have just beaten West Ham by 2-0 at the London Stadium, which means we are now 19 points clear at the top of the Premier League table with 70 points to our name. January is not even over. It feels really good to finally have this lead that I think in our minds we've always had. We've always looked at this game in hand against West Ham and thought in any reasonable terms this should be one that Liverpool should absolutely walk. They should definitely come away with all 3 points. But of course you have to wait for it to actually happen, and it finally has done. Liverpool are now level on games with the rest of the league, and they have got the advantage that shows just how fantastic they have been in comparison to everyone else this season. I think it was quite an interesting game today because in some ways Liverpool weren't at their best. There wasn't too much champagne football, but there were definitely flashes where we showed what we could have done to West Ham. And I think if it hadn't been as easy as it ended up being, if we hadn't got the goals we did fairly early on in the game in comparison to how other games have been, looking back to just the most recent Premier League game against Wolves where it did end up going right to the wire, I think Liverpool did show today that if they had been in trouble, if they'd had to really start forcing the issue, then the players on the pitch were more than able of doing that, because at times they were running rings around West Ham. It's quite interesting looking back at our goals. Those aren't our best moves from the game, really, to be perfectly honest. There's that one in the first half that doesn't result in a goal because unfortunately it's Andrew Robertson rather than just anyone else who ends up on the end of it. I absolutely love Andrew Robertson, fantastic footballer, but I think it's fair for us to all say finishing isn't his strong suit. But the way the players move the ball around, West Ham just have no idea what to do, and it's something that I spoke about in my pre-match video where even when they do commit bodies back, if you're good enough, if you're quick enough, if you're clever enough and you manipulate the spaces in the right way, as Leicester did against West Ham in their previous Premier League match when they beat them 4-1, it's very, very clear that this West Ham defence just has no ideas of how to cope with you, and that was clear today. Like I said, when Liverpool switched it on, they just walked through West Ham like they weren't even there, and that attack in the first half where Robertson tries to dink it over Fabianski and it just goes ever so slightly wide is a perfect example of how if Liverpool really needed a goal, they always knew how to get it. They always knew how to switch it on and just walk through this West Ham side. That was absolutely fantastic. The penalty as well is about as stonewall as you're going to see. I don't see any reason to have any sort of discussion about it whatsoever. He's got about 3 players trying to kick him to the floor. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure if it was handball or not. The replays looked a little bit inconclusive, and I think that's what they ended up going to in the VAR verdict as well. They just kind of looked at it and thought, we can't really say for sure whether it's handball or not. It's one of them where, you know, if we don't have this somewhat ridiculous rule where any handball, no matter how insignificant, is a foul, if that rule wasn't in place, then they wouldn't have even given it a second thought, because it clearly doesn't influence the path of the ball or anything like that. Thankfully, the VAR officials just decide to leave the penalty as it is, and Mo Salah absolutely hammers it home. I think we need to start putting to bed this idea he's not very good at penalties. I think he's missed one in his time at Liverpool. I think it is just the fact that they're not like Milner penalties where they look unsavable. They're not like Milner penalties where it doesn't matter if the goalie goes the right way or not. They're going to find their way in anyway because they are just right in the corner. The fact of the matter is he seems to know what he's doing. He seems to know how to send the goalie the right way, what to do with his body shape to deceive the keeper and make sure that he doesn't telegraph which way he's going to go and stuff like that. And to be fair to his pen today as well, if the goalie goes the right way, there's enough power and some decent placement behind it that I don't think he saves it anyway. So I think we kind of need to squash that idea that Mo Salah isn't that good at penalties. I think just because when Milner's on the pitch, he normally takes them ahead of Mo Salah, the idea that he's the deputy taker and not the ideal penalty taker for Liverpool kind of seeps into this rather odd mentality. But to be perfectly honest, he has been more than reliable. He has been absolutely fantastic. And when the pressure's on or not, regardless, he tends to tuck it away with absolute aplomb. And he did that again today and puts Liverpool 1-0 up. And that was the perfect time to score, I think, because like I said, while we had cut West Ham open at will at times, there were other times where, you know, we just didn't quite look like we were at our best. We looked like we were giving it a 7 out of 10 all over the pitch for most of the game. And that feels a little bit harsh. And to be honest, in any other season, that performance looks like an 8 or even a 9 out of 10. It's just the standard Liverpool have set at the moment, that is the absolute bog standard, to go to an away team's ground all the way in London and just walk all over them like it's not even difficult. That's the standard of football we expect from this Liverpool team at the moment, and they delivered it today as per usual. But I think if we'd gone on for any longer without that goal, there would have been just a little bit of an inkling of doubt, especially if we'd gone past half-time as well. I know pretty much all of us have grown to trust this Liverpool team with our lives at this stage. We can pretty much always guarantee that they're going to find some way to dig it out regardless. But it would have started to look like, you know, away from home, a midweek tie, with all the stuff that's gone on with the FA Cup as well. Maybe this was just a little blip for Liverpool. But as it stands, it wasn't. Mo Salah puts us 1-0 up, and from there on in, West Ham have a go, but they're just rubbish. And I think that was a lot of what was being said before the match. West Ham aren't very good, and Liverpool are brilliant. And that was the story of the match as well today. I think especially once that second goal goes in, Liverpool are so happy to just take it as easy as they possibly can, which is of course understandable given the fact they've got another game in less than 72 hours. Jurgen Klopp's substitutions were quite interesting. He made them a lot earlier than he normally does, and he was kind of taking up players less for tactical reasons and more just for fitness purposes. You know, Oxlade-Chamberlain has quite frequently been taken off. He doesn't play the full 90 minutes. Trent Alexander-Arnold was an interesting one. It didn't look like there was any sort of injury there, unlike with Divock Origi, who did have a little ice pack on his knee, I think, which is understandable given the fact he played against Shrewsbury, and we are going to probably want to play him in the game against Southampton as well. So we have got to sort of wrap him up in cotton wool to make sure he's absolutely fine for that game. And of course, with Liverpool already 2-0 up, we had nothing to lose. Well, nothing to lose, I think is the right kind of phrase for the kind of situation we were in, where we just didn't look like we were going to throw the game away. So it makes sense to take him off. Ox moves out to the left wing and does an absolutely fine job anyway. But the Alexander-Arnold sub, I think, is the most interesting in terms of it does look like it's purely about fitness. It's purely to make sure that he is ready and raring to go for the game against Southampton. I do think of all the players, he did look ever so slightly, not leggy, but there were a couple of moments where he got beaten for pace by the West Ham left back or left winger. There are a couple of moments where he gets left for dead or he tries to stand someone up and they just beat him and go round him. We've kind of seen that in the past from Trent Alexander-Arnold, and the good thing is the team knows exactly how to compensate for him. That never results in, us being put in a really difficult, compromising situation. Normally, one of Jordan Henderson or Virgil van Dijk is perfectly happy, or Joe Gomez even, to clean up in those areas and make sure that a mistake from Alexander-Arnold doesn't lead to any sort of huge issue, which kind of makes me think that it's more Jurgen Klopp has just woven this into the system. He understands that with the amount of times Trent gets forward, he is going to get caught out sometimes, and even when he does track back, he's going to be in compromising positions that makes it difficult for him to make the tackle, and he will get beaten. And we've worked the system around that to make that work and to allow Trent to continue going forward without it causing us any problems defensively. We saw that again today, like I said, players just sweeping up, making sure that whenever there was danger, whenever West Ham did look like they were going to cause us problems, there was always at least one Liverpool player who was totally unfazed by it. Not even a player who was kind of put under the cosh and really had to stretch to stop it. Just a player who was like, don't worry, I've got this all by myself. Virgil van Dijk did it a couple times. There's that fantastic moment where he just shows Robert Snodgrass all the way out the penalty box. You can see Robert Snodgrass just looking up every second like, give us a chance. And Virgil van Dijk's like, no, off you go. Get out wide. We're not interested in you. We don't want you in the box. And that just happened all the way through the game. Alisson Becker as well, when they did finally get shots on goal. To be fair, they had some decent shots as well. Lanzini has one, and the Declan Rice header as well. The Declan Rice header, by the way, that is a phenomenal save from Alisson, and I don't think it's getting enough credit. The fact that his momentum's actually working against him in that situation. He can't stretch any further than he already can. He's just got to really push himself out as much as he possibly can. Hope that his momentum takes it far enough. And by and large, Alisson Becker, you can guarantee that he has got it in the bag and he pushes it wide for a corner. It is an absolutely phenomenal save. And if the game was in the balance, if that had been 0-0 or 1-0 or 2-1 to Liverpool or something like that, then we would have been going absolutely bonkers over that save. The fact of the matter is all it really preserves is his clean sheet, which, by the way, now puts him level at the top in the race for the Golden Glove, which, given the fact that he missed a fair chunk of the start of the season and was just conceding goals for a laugh around October and November, that is absolutely astonishing for Alisson Becker and the rest of the defence. They were absolutely fantastic as usual today. West Ham were getting absolutely no change out of them whatsoever, and they also contributed a fair amount going forward. They did more, I think, going forward than they had to do defensively in this game because of the way that West Ham played. And I think moving back to that second goal, because I didn't really discuss it much when I first mentioned it, it's absolutely fantastic. The way Henderson releases both Firmino and Mo Salah, and the way they get out of that sticky situation where there doesn't seem to be much coordination. You kind of think that both of them are too close to each other. There's no clear idea of whose ball it actually is. Mo Salah takes control. Firmino knows to just let off and give it to him, and it's a beautiful ball that just wraps around the defence to Oxlade-Chamberlain. And then the strength of Oxlade-Chamberlain as well. When you watch that kind of what should be a 50-50 between him and Lanzini tries to clatter into him, goes flying, and Ox does not even break stride. And that felt like another thing about this game. Liverpool were just quicker, stronger and better than West Ham in every single area of the pitch. Quicker because any counter-attack they tried to do was immediately snuffed out by our central defenders. Stronger because anytime they tried to 50-50 our players for the ball, they got no change out of them whatsoever. And better because the fact of the matter is they lost the game 2-0 and had absolutely no chance in hell of getting any sort of result out of it. But the strength from Ox to just shrug Lanzini off like he's not even there, and then a brilliant finish. It was really, really good to see because I think Ox has been it's been a bit of a mixed bag from over the last couple of games. It's good to see him get the starts, and he has been a useful member of the team, and I think he has consistently delivered those 7 out of 10 performances, but he hasn't quite been the Ox of his first season, where I think he was a lot more involved in the final third in terms of actually creating and finishing off the goals, and that goal will hopefully spur him on for this latter stage of the season, because he does look like he's been frustrated with himself. When he comes off in a substitution with about an hour into the game, he tends to look quite frustrated. He looks disappointed that he hasn't offered a little bit more than I think. And he knows he can give. He knows how important he can be to this Liverpool side. And we know that as fans as well. And Jurgen Klopp and the staff know that because we've seen it in his first season. And it's obviously difficult for him because he's still coming back from injury. And he can't really get sustained runs in the side here and there because of the fact that there are just so many brilliant players at Liverpool Football Club. And I think it's testament to Jurgen Klopp's man management. I think he's done so well with Ox and giving him these batch of games. Anyone who watches my pre-match videos knows that I think I've always thought he's going to play Lallana in these matches. I think there's been a fitness issue with Lallana as well, which kind of explains why Ox has had so many starts. But on the flip side, it has also given him the football that he needs to build up this form. He's not going to get it by playing cup games and making sub appearances and occasionally playing home games at Anfield and stuff like that. He needs to be, you know, in the nitty gritty with the rest of the team, and that's what he had today, and he actually delivered, which is fantastic to see. And hopefully he can kick on from here and really start putting in some fantastic performances between now and the end of the season, because we know he can deliver it, and he knows he can deliver it as well. And I think he is absolutely desperate to prove what he is worth once again in a Liverpool shirt, and it was lovely to see him get that goal, like I said, that should hopefully help him kick on. And then after that goal happens, like I said, Liverpool just see the game out. And if I'm being perfectly honest, and I sound like a spoilt brat here, I was a little bit bored. It's getting to that stage now in the season where, unless it's getting to squeaky bum time at the end of the match and Liverpool do grab a late winner out the fire or make a late comeback or anything like that, it does just get a little bit dull because there's relatively no jeopardy whatsoever, if we're being perfectly honest. But that is the absolute smallest problem you can possibly have with a football team, that they are so good, it's getting a little bit boring. Long may it continue. Liverpool Football Club, please keep it up until the end of our lives and for the rest of time. To be perfectly honest, I think all of us would be very happy with that. The fact of the matter is, Liverpool came, Liverpool saw, Liverpool conquered, as they always do. The London Stadium had nothing to offer, West Ham had nothing to offer, and Liverpool had absolutely everything to give us. And it was, of course, yet another 3 points. So that is all for today's video. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, as always, you know what to do by now. Hit the like button down there. Hit that subscribe button there if you're new around here. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days as well. Don't forget to follow at Alisson Focus TV on Twitter, and I'll be back soon with the pre-match content for that game against Southampton on Saturday. Until then, bye for now.